Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my week number 12 must-start and must-sit running backs for the 2022 fantasy football season. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. And if you have any questions about week number 12, please ask down below in the comment section. Today's video is brought to you guys by BetMGM. They have a great offer for new users that we're going to be talking about a little bit later in today's video. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get on into my week number 12 must start and must sit running backs. We begin with my first must-start running back of the week, Antonio Gibson of the Washington Commanders, going up against the Atlanta Falcons at home in Washington this week. Last week in week number 11, he went toe-to-toe with the Houston Texans defense. That is one of the worst defenses in the National Football League, up against the run in Houston. Running back number 15 on the week, having 18 carries for 72 yards, as well as 3 receptions on 3 targets for 31 yards. In 4 of his last 5 games, he has scored at least 11 half PPR points. Brian Robinson is going to continue to get touches. I don't doubt that one bit, because Brian Robinson has looked pretty solid this season. But at this point right now, where we're sitting in week number 12, Gibson is going to average more touches per game because Gibson is catching passes and Brian Robinson barely even gets a target every single game. Atlanta also ranks 28th in pass DVOA and 24th in rush DVOA, so this is an incredibly good matchup for Antonio Gibson this week up against the Falcons defense. Again, I do think Brian Robinson will get touches. Could Brian Robinson score? And could Antonio Gibson not score? Of course, but ultimately, ever since Brian Robinson has came back, Antonio Gibson has been playing on a whole nother level. And this week, again, the matchup is very good up against the Falcons, so I love Antonio Gibson this week. At number 2, we have Jeff Wilson Jr. of the Miami Dolphins going up against the Houston Texans. And if you guys have been watching these videos over the last couple of weeks, you would notice that I am a lot of the time saying that even if I don't necessarily love the running back, I like Jeff Wilson Jr. a ton. If you stream the running back up against the Texans defense, typically they are going to do incredibly well. Since Jeff Wilson was on bye last week, we got to hop on into the time machine and go back to week number 10 for his stats. In that game, he went up against the Cleveland Browns at home in Miami, finishing as the running back number 6 in half PPR on the week, having 17 carries for 119 yards and a touchdown, as well as 2 receptions on 5 targets for 24 yards. Since he was traded to the Miami Dolphins in 2 games, playing 2 games as a Dolphin, he has had 215 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns. Again, the Houston Texans defense is absolutely fucking atrocious up against the run. They rank 31st against the run and 25th against the pass. Now, obviously, Raheem Mostert is still going to be there. Raheem Mostert is not going to just completely go away in this offense. But if Jeff Wilson was seeing so much usage immediately after being traded to the Miami Dolphins, what do you think is going to happen when he has more time to learn the playbook, when he has more time in the system coming out of the bye week? The gap between Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson might get even wider in terms of touches per game. Again, this is a very good matchup up against the Houston Texans, and I think Jeff Wilson takes full advantage of that. My final must-start running back of the week before we pivot into the must-sits is David Montgomery, running back of the Chicago Bears, going up against the New York Jumbo Jets in MetLife. It has been reported just a little bit ago that Zach Wilson has been benched for Mike White, and they took the benching so seriously that he's going to be inactive this week, and they are going to go with Mike White as the starting quarterback and Cool Joe Flacco as the backup. Very interesting. So David Montgomery, obviously, Zach Wilson doesn't have too much to do with this game, but at the same time, maybe it does, because maybe now with Mike White under center, the offense can actually figure some shit out and they could push this to be a higher scoring game where David Montgomery is able to run the ball a little bit more if things are able to be kept close. Now, Justin Fields' health is certainly up in the air, in my opinion, in this matchup. He could play, he could not play. But ultimately, the reason why I like David Montgomery so much is because of the fact that obviously Khalil Herbert got hurt, and now this elevates David Montgomery to be the clear workhorse back on this team, and that paid off very fruitfully last week up against the Atlanta Falcons defense in Atlanta. 17 carries for 67 yards and a score, 3 receptions on 4 targets for 54 yards, RB number 6 on the week. David Montgomery looked really good in that spot because there was no Khalil Herbert to potentially spell the upside, for Khalil Herbert to come into the game and vulture the upside of David Montgomery. Now, Tristan Ebner is no schlub. He's going to go out there and he's going to get touches, but ultimately, those touches won't amount to derailing what David Montgomery can do. Now, I know what you might be thinking, Nick, the Jets rank 8th against the run. So the Jets are good against the run. Sure, I understand that, and I agree, but I think that David Montgomery will get enough volume, and likely he will be able to score in this game to be able to get it done in the spot. If Justin Fields is healthy, I am a lot more comfortable with saying that David Montgomery is must start. If he is not able to go in this game, then I still like David Montgomery, but my expectations will be tempered slightly. Maybe that does mean that Montgomery gets more carries because Fields runs the ball, but ultimately, the team is in a much better spot if Justin Fields is under center. Before we pivot into the must-sit running backs of the week, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor. They've been on your screen this whole entire time, BetMGM. And they have a no-brainer offer for you. If you're a brand new user to BetMGM and click on the link in the video description or in the pinned comment and bet $10 on any World Cup pre-game money line, you receive $200 in free bets if a team scores a goal in the World Cup, during the World Cup, which is guaranteed to happen. Your bet can lose. There could be no goal in that game, but you will still get your $200 in free bets because someone is going to score eventually in the World Cup. So make sure that you guys take advantage of that offer right now. I'm going to throw it onto the screen. All you guys got to do, bet $10 on the biggest favorite available or your favorite team. Maybe you like one of these teams, you want to bet on them. Go ahead. You bet $10 on them, and you will win $200 in free bets if someone scores a goal in the World Cup. Again, the bet that you choose, the bet that's on your screen right now, could lose. They could get absolutely demolished, but you will still receive your $200 in free bets. So make sure you guys take advantage of that right now before it disappears. It will only be available for the next week and a half at this point. So next up, we move to the must-sit running backs, headlined by DeAndre Swift, running back of the Detroit Lions, going up against the Buffalo Bills. Now, I, for one, am sick and tired of this Detroit Lions bullshit when it comes to DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift was one of my favorite running backs in fantasy football drafts. DeAndre Swift is one of the most talented running backs in the NFL, in my opinion. But it does not matter because every time they're knocking on the door, DeAndre Swift has this big burst run. They get on the goal line. They say, DeAndre, get the fuck out of here, pal. We're bringing in my guy Jamal with 2A's Williams, and he's going to score a touchdown. And it has been so infuriating. But what's even more infuriating than the vulturing by Jamal Williams is the amount of touches this guy's getting. Last week, up against the Giants in MetLife, RB 19.5 PPR. Only 5 rushes for 20 yards and a touchdown, 3 receptions on 3 targets for 12 yards and a fumble. So he had 8 opportunities in the game, 8 touches of the football. And he is one of the most talented running backs in the NFL. But Nick, he's banged up. Sure, maybe he's coming off the injury, but he looks healthy out there. It doesn't look like they need to restrict his touches. He hasn't gotten over 6 fucking carries since week number 3. It's week number 12. It's week number 12, and he hasn't gotten over 6 carries since week number 3. This is a situation where you clearly have to fade DeAndre Swift until something changes. Something's got to change. Again, DeAndre Swift's a great player. He's one of the better running backs in the NFL. It's going to be hard to bench him, but if you ever needed to bench him, it'll be this week because the Bills rank 4th in rush DVOA, 7th in pass DVOA. This should be a tough game for this Lions offense. Next up, we move to my number 2 must-sit running back, and it's Kenyon Drake, running back of the Baltimore Ravens, going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. Last week, up against the Panthers, Kenyon Drake was a guy that I was really excited about. I know that the Panthers defense is a little sneaky good. They're a little frisky, but ultimately, I thought that the Ravens would still be able to steamroll them, hand the ball off to Drake a bunch, and without Gus Edwards, he should have a great day. Nope. Completely wrong. Running back 32.5 PPR, 10 carries for 46 yards, 2 receptions on 4 targets for 7 yards. And it is more and more likely every week that Gus Edwards comes back. So this week, I'm going to assume Gus Edwards is back. And with both of them active, it is just a complete and utter coin flip on who's going to get the volume. And sometimes you're going to flip the coin's going to fall off the table and fucking shatter in half because Lamar Jackson's the one running in the touchdowns. So right now, I don't trust either of these guys. And it makes it very tough for fantasy because I think they both have a shit ton of upside weekly. But right now, I just simply cannot trust it. Final player to discuss in today's video, Leonard Fournette, running back of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, going up against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. I am very, very, very worried about Fournette being out-touched by Rashad with 2A's White. Before Fournette got hurt in that last game in Germany, in Munich, because they were on bye last week. So the week prior to that, before Fournette got hurt, here are the touches that the backs had. Fournette 14, White 11. So White is knocking on the door of becoming the guy. And there's a lot of reports from these beat writers talking about how Rashad White coming out of the bye, which they're coming out of right now, is going to be the guy. The Browns defense has been pretty hit or miss this season, if I'm being honest with you. But ultimately, right now, unless I was down astronomical at running back, there are no teams on bye this week. There's really no reason to chance throwing Leonard Fournette in your lineup if he ends up being a complete and utter dud, because Rashad White really looks like the better back at this point, at least based upon the eye test. And Rashad White went fucking bananas in that game up against the Seahawks in Germany when Fournette got hurt. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. I hope you all have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, make sure to check out that BetMGM link in the video description. Love you guys all. Goodbye.